Welcome to the Website Strategy Roadmap Workshop. This is a training for you if you are a business owner, a church leader, a nonprofit leader who is either building a new website and you need some guidance and some help figuring out what sort of intentional strategy should you implement into your website. Or maybe you are already a website owner. You have an existing website, but you're wanting to rethink things or revamp things or try to optimize your website to get a higher ROI out of your website. Either way, in this training, we're going to be unpacking a four-part framework that we've really used to help hundreds of business owners, church leaders, and nonprofits to, again, get more of a ROI out of their website, to get more clicks and more downloads and more views and more leads and more sales and more donations. And so hopefully this training will help you to do the same. In just a little bit here, I'm going to unpack who I am, who our agency is. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that because I want to spend most of our time on the content of today's workshop. But I always like to start by just kind of explaining what this training is and what it's not. So this is not a sales pitch. I could spend a lot of time talking about our pricing and our process and our services. That's not what I'm here to do today in this particular training. It's also not a magic pill to solve all of your website problems. So what we see too often is business owners or church leaders or nonprofits who are looking for one podcast or one new book to buy or one webinar to attend that's going to kind of solve all of their problems. And there's really no magic pill. In fact, we're going to kind of get into it in a little bit, unpacking the mythology that there is a magic pill out there. There's one thing that you can do that's going to, fix everything instantaneously for your website. And it's also not a plan that's going to work without intentionality. If you're not willing to put the legwork in and be intentional with your website strategy, this plan is not going to work. What this workshop is and what this training is a group of leaders learning and growing together. So there's a lot of things that I get to do as an agency owner here at Ritchie Creative. The thing that is the most rewarding to me is brushing arms with and linking arms with great leaders, business owners who are solving their customers' problems, church leaders, nonprofit leaders. And so to be able to kind of have these kind of conversations with great leaders is an honor for me. Secondly, this is a presentation, again, of a four-part proven framework. We've used this to help hundreds of really great leaders build websites of intentionality that actually see results and that kind of serve their organizations in a positive way. And again, it's a reminder of the power of intentionality. We have to be intentional. We can't just we're intentional in so many areas of our lives, but website strategy often ends up on the back burner. But you're going to find that even with your website and with your visual presence online, we want to make sure that we're being very intentional with the strategy that we're implementing into our website. Okay, so really briefly here, my name is Brandon. I own Ritchie Creative. There's a lot of different hats that I get to wear. Really, my favorite titles are being the husband to my wife, Dana, and the dad to my two kiddos. You can see that picture of Natalie. She's our oldest. She's 3 years old at the time of this training. And then Allison, she just turned 1 recently. But also, I'm a business owner. So I own Ritchie Creative. We are a creative agency. You can kind of see here, this is our main mission statement. Ritchie Creative is a creative agency that helps its clients leverage thoughtful design and intentional execution in order to maximize their impact, tell their story, and do more good in the world. So yes, we do graphic design, but we do the website design and the logo design and the print design through the lens of intentionality, because we want to help our customers do these three things. We want to help you maximize impact, tell your story, and do more good in the world. And that all caps do more good. You can see it. We have it back here on our wall in our office. We have it on t-shirts, hats, all over the place. And so that's kind of the big thing that we cling to, is that we want to help business owners solve their customers' problems, churches and nonprofits do more good in the world. And so that is the thing that kind of propels us forward and moves us forward as an agency. Okay, so first let's talk about the outdated model. So there's an outdated model as it pertains to website strategy, and maybe you can relate to this. And so it's a pretty common occurrence. You want to build a website, so you sign up for Squarespace or Wix, or you sign up for WordPress, or if you're a church, you sign up for Subsplash. And there's all these different templates, and you pick a template, and then you just change out your logo, change out some text, and then all of a sudden you have a website. So there's a problem with this. If you are using this cookie cutter model where you're just kind of clicking a template and you can have a website built in a minute, or there's all these AI website builders, you can kind of just click a button and build a website. The problem with that is if you are building a website using a cookie cutter strategy, you're going to get cookie cutter results. And so there's a couple different problems. Again, one is that you're going to get cookie cutter results. The other problem is if you're using the same Squarespace template or Wix template or Subsplash template as somebody else, you're going to have the same website essentially as somebody else. Maybe a different logo, maybe a different, one-liner here or there. But no joke, I have been to a pizza restaurant, like a pizza shop that has a certain website with a certain look and feel and color palette and photos. And just like a month or two later, visited a different restaurant that had the exact same layout. It looked like it was the exact same website. And so if you're using templates and you're using cookie cutter website strategy, again, you're going to get cookie cutter results. So the new model is intentionality. It's so important that we're actually pouring intentionality into everything that we do in our businesses and our churches, in our nonprofits. But again, website strategy often ends up on the back burner. And so just to kind of like illustrate in a different context, the power of intentionality sort of in my own life. This is me. So this is me probably 10 years ago or so. I just got to a place where I didn't even recognize myself. I wasn't intentional with the things I was eating, with the amount of exercise I was putting into my life, with my lifestyle. And I woke up one day and I looked in the mirror. Actually, I was a groomsman in a friend of mine's wedding. And I saw this wedding photo. And this is the thing that just sparked it in my mind. Like, who is that? I look sickly. I let myself go. In this particular photo, I think probably both of these are around the same weight. I was almost 300 pounds. So I stepped on the scale and it read, I think it was like 297 pounds or something like that. And so anyways, I just was not intentional. I was eating things I shouldn't be eating. I was not intentional with, what I was doing in terms of health and fitness and nutrition. And I let myself go and I wasn't intentional. And so from that point on, I decided I needed a plan. So I, started tracking my calories and figuring out how many calories do I need to be at a healthy caloric deficit. And I just started exercising and, put together a plan, and I was intentional and I put in the work day after day after day. And after about a year, I was able to lose right around 70, close to anywhere between 70 and 80 pounds. And so anyways, that's just kind of one illustration. And you probably have stories like this too, whether it's paying off debt, or it's, some other goal that you've aspired to, but you put in the work, you devise a plan to follow it. And then you're able to actually benefit and see the results. And so we see the same thing in website strategy. So for the people that are just not being intentional, they're just letting whatever happens online, it's no big deal. Those people are the ones that aren't going to see the maximum result that they could see. But if you're actually intentional with how we're crafting our messaging and how we're crafting our marketing and what we're doing, with our website strategy, how we're getting leads and nurturing those leads over time, then you're going to actually see more donations, more sales, more signups, more downloads. And so again, we want to bake intentionality into our website strategy. So that's why we built the website strategy roadmap. This is again the 4-part framework that we've used to help hundreds of churches, nonprofits, business owners build an intentional website strategy for their website. And so you can see here, we have the roadmap kind of listed out in these 4 different categories. And so really on any road trip, there are 4 things that are pretty critical. So number 1 is your map. And so you can see right here, we have mission or map. That is the first part. So mission is all about goal setting. What's our passion and purpose? Why does our website exist in the first place? What are the goals for our website? How are we tracking those goals? And so we want to make sure that we're really, really clear with where we're going. So again, the mission part of the 4-part framework is your map. This is the compass. This is the thing that's keeping you moving in the right direction. You're not getting sidetracked or distracted or lost, but you know what your website exists to do. And so that's the first part. Before you do anything else, we want to be really clear on why our website exists, because that is the thing that's going to be the compass pointing us to true north and keeping us on track when things get tough. So that's the first part of the website strategy roadmap. The second part here is messaging. So you can see here, this is the series of road signs. So if you've ever been on a road trip before and you've gotten lost, you know how important it is to follow the directions and follow the street signs and the road signs. So you know what exit to get off on, you know when to slow down, when to speed up, you know which streets to go down to get to your destination. And so on your website, the messaging component of this 4-part framework is critical. We want to make sure that it's very, very clear as far as how people are navigating through the website. We're funneling them to the right pages at the right time. They're having the right experience and journey as they're interacting with the website. So again, the messaging, the words we're using, the copy we're using, is it confusing people or is it funneling people the right way through the website? The third part of the four-part framework that we use here in the website strategy roadmap is marketing. So this is, in terms of road imagery, we're referring to this as the billboard. And so if you've ever been on a road trip or on like a family vacation or something like that, you probably have seen billboards as you're driving down the street that are, advertising some sort of restaurant or a tourist attraction, and it's eliciting action. It's the thing that's actually making you get off on an exit. And so this is essentially the thing that is eliciting action on your website. So what is the thing that's actually going to cause somebody to actually click get a free quote or get started or buy now or choose a service or make a donation or plan a visit to your church? And so we want to make sure that we're being really intentional with how we're instituting good marketing principles on the website in such a way to where it's eliciting action, just like a billboard would elicit action on a road trip. And then the fourth and final component that we're going to be going over today in this training is meaningful experiences. So we refer to this as an enjoyable journey. So if you've been on a road trip, you know that it's a poor experience if you get a flat tire or if the air conditioning's broken or the radio doesn't work or it's staticky. And so we need to be thinking through what's the flat tire of our website? What's the static radio of our website? What's the thing that's, frustrating for people? It's making people wonder, why did I even go on this journey with this particular website in the first place? And so we want to make sure that we're eliminating friction. We're reducing all of those different poor experiences so that we're instead giving people meaningful experiences. And so again, you can see this is the four-part framework: mission, messaging, marketing, and meaningful experiences. Okay, let's go ahead and hop to the first section. And before we do that, it's important to know you really need each of these, because if you're missing even one part of this framework, let's say that you have great messaging, it's clear, your copy is concise, it's compelling, you have great marketing principles instituted, great meaningful experiences, but there's no mission. Well, we don't even know what you're aiming at. How do you know if you've actually hit success with your website when you get there? And so we want to make sure that we're really clear on the mission part of our website. What is our website even supposed to be doing? And then let's say that you have the other three parts of the framework, but you don't have great messaging. Well, people aren't going to know what to do. Your copy is going to confuse them. They're not going to know actually how to take the next step with your organization. Let's say that you have the other three parts of the framework, but you don't have marketing. There's going to be no way to capture email addresses or capture leads or nurture those leads over time. The photos you're using and all of those different other visual elements aren't going to be compelling and captivating to make somebody actually elicit action from somebody. And if you have, mission and messaging and marketing, but not meaningful experiences, then there could be friction on the website, a button that doesn't work, or people are confused. They don't know how to navigate your tabs at the top of the website. And so they're going to get distracted, get bored, check out, or go somewhere else. And so again, each part of this four-part framework is essential if you actually want to build an intentional website strategy that's going to actually help you get results with your website. Okay, so let's go ahead and hop into the first part of the framework. Again, this is mission. This is your map, the thing that's pointing you in the right direction, keeping you on course. And so the first thing, before we even talk about goal setting for your website, is finding your passionate purpose. In Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, many of you probably have read it. He has a quote in there that says, regardless of what we do in our lives, our why, our driving purpose, cause, or belief never changes. So your passionate purpose is essentially stemmed from this idea of what's your why? What's the thing that's actually driving you and keeping you focused? Earlier, I mentioned that our why is part of our mission statement, that do more good. We want to help you do more good in the world. That's the thing that we're clinging to. We're not just a company who's going to pump out a quick logo for its clients or pump out a quick website just for the sake of doing it, but we actually want to help our people do more good and make a positive impact. So again, your passionate purpose is the thing that's going to keep you going when things get tough. There's going to be, a lot of planning and a lot of brainstorming as you're building out a website strategy. You might get discouraged. And so the passionate purpose is the thing that will keep you on course and keep you excited when things get rough. The next thing here to kind of know as we kind of move into the goal setting portion of the mission part of the framework is this. I love this quote from Zig Ziglar. He says, if you aim at nothing, you will hit it every time. And that's true. Like if you don't know what you're actually aiming at and what you're trying to achieve on the website, you're not going to know if you reach success or failure or somewhere in between. And so we want to make sure that we're really clear with identifying what are our goals, how are we measuring those goals and tracking those goals over time. So as it relates to your website, now I'm not going to spend a ton of time going over the SMART goal framework. You probably are familiar with it. There's incredible books and leaders and podcasts that already kind of cover setting SMART goals, but you do want to make sure that you're setting SMART goals for your website. Again, a SMART goal is any goal that is specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, it's relevant, and it's time-bound. And so, for example, if you were to say, I want to lose 15 pounds, it's not going to happen. And it's not going to happen because you don't have any of those, like it's not a specific goal. You're, like, when are you actually going to lose those 15 pounds? How are you going to do it? What are the action items associated with that? And so you want to make sure that you're kind of converting that into a SMART goal. So a SMART goal version of this goal would be, I will exercise for 30 minutes on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and strive for a caloric deficit of 500 calories per day in order to lose 15 pounds by November 1st. If you're setting a goal that is this intentional and this specific, and you're instituting all of those other SMART goal parameters around the goal, you're going to be much more likely to actually achieve that goal and hit that goal. So with your website, these are just some examples of things that you might be setting goals for your website. And many of you have set goals for other things in your life, whether it's family goals or reading goals or, again, weight loss goals or fitness goals or something like that. But again, maybe you are kind of new to setting goals for a website, or even the idea of the fact that you need to be setting goals for your organization's website. But again, these are a few things just to kind of consider. This is certainly not a comprehensive list of everything that you could be setting goals for. But again, these are just some examples here. The number of website visitors that you might try to, attract on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis. Number of button clicks, a number of emails you're collecting, a number of form submissions, a number of video plays, e-commerce transactions, a number of donations, a number of leads you're acquiring on your website, a number of strategy sessions you're booking, or newsletter subscribers. And so again, the list goes on, and there could be, several different things that aren't even on this list that you specifically might be trying to get out of your website. But again, the big goal is to just brainstorm a list of what are all the things we want our website to do. And then once you have this list of the things you want to set metrics for and set goals for, you need to transform those and kind of optimize those into a SMART goal format so that you're actually going to know when you hit those goals or if you don't hit them, and how you can kind of change them or adjust them or change your action plans in order to hit them more effectively. Okay, so setting goals is kind of one part of the process here. So as we're thinking through mission, we've talked about passionate purpose, we've talked about setting goals, but it's not enough to just set goals. You also need to track your goals. So measuring your goals over time, this is a great way to actually see, are we hitting our goals or are we not hitting them? And if we're not hitting them, what can we do to kind of course correct and kind of change things in order to hit them more effectively? So one more kind of personal story from my life. This is a photo of my wife, Dana, and I. And so this is kind of right after we got married. So kind of going into our marriage, Dana and I, really was me with my student loans, had close to $30,000. You can see right there in the picture, $26,000 in student loan debt. And as a single guy before getting married, tried, super hard to get out of debt. I wanted to get out of debt so bad. It was this huge weight that I felt on my shoulders. And I went through extreme lengths. I would work my day job and then work a night job and then work a side hustle. And I was selling stuff. I was using Facebook Marketplace to sell camping equipment and all these different things. Just in every single dollar that I could, I was putting on the debt, and it was hardly making any progress. We got married. Now, my wife, Dana, she is driven. She's determined. She is the kind of person that creates a plan and follows a plan and sticks to the plan. And so she said, it was her idea, hey, we need to just have a visual. We need to print out an old school thermometer, put it on the freezer, and track our progress. And that's what we did. So we printed out this thermometer, and we hung it on our fridge. And then every $500 that we could add, every $1,000 we could add, we got a red Expo marker. And we would just fill it in all the way to the top until it was completely full. And it happened lightning fast, because when you're measuring your goals, every time you can visually see that goal coming true and you're getting closer and closer to reaching that goal, it's going to put fresh wind in your sails, and you're going to be that much more excited to actually see it through. And so that is kind of the next kind of tip here is with your website goals. Yes, you need to set your goals, but you also need to measure goals. Now, this is what you would refer to as like a KPI dashboard. You might be familiar with that term, you might not, but essentially we're considering lead measures or lag measures. KPI stands for key performance indicator. And if you're not familiar with, this kind of language, it might sound confusing, but really what we're saying here is we want to kind of figure out what are the metrics we're trying to hit. Again, what are the goals we're trying to hit? And then how can we actually track that progress over time? And so you can look up a KPI dashboard online. You can find some different solutions that you can sign up for a subscription with. But this is just a general screenshot of an example of one. So you can see, there could be line graphs or bar graphs or pie charts. Even in your your email dashboards, like MailerLite or MailChimp or something like that, you can view metrics like this. How many subscribers have we gotten in the past month? How many unsubscribes have we gotten? Or even in your website, since this is the Website Strategy Roadmap Workshop, is to think through, you can log into Squarespace and you can view your analytics, or you can go to WordPress and install a plugin like Jetpack or something like that to actually view page counts and page visits and what are people clicking on. And that's another really great way to kind of use your website analytics tools to kind of see some of these goals. But again, you need to figure out what are the goals we're trying to hit. If it's, YouTube views that are embeds on our website on like a sermons page or a resources page or a workshops page, then you can view that. So like whatever the thing is that you're trying to track, subscribers, clicks, other forms of engagement, downloads of resources, you could either get a KPI dashboard where you're kind of plugging into all of those different channels to kind of view everything at a glance. Or again, you could just look at website analytics, or like MailChimp analytics. But really, the big thing that we're trying to push here is set goals, yes, but don't just set it and forget it. You need to also be looking to see, are we on track with those goals? So at this point in the month, have we gotten the amount of subscribers or clicks or engagement on our website that we need to be getting in order to reach our monthly or quarterly or annual goals? The next big tip I have is adjusting every 90 days. The fact is, it's not enough to just track goals and measure goals, but you also need to be course correcting. And so if you see something that's not working, if you just keep, like, you're not hitting a goal month after month, maybe you change the goal a little bit, or maybe you, adjust some of those action items that are going to be mandatory in order for you to hit that goal. And so, whether that's, posting more on social media or doing more cold outreach or running more ad spend in terms of your ads, do some adjustments in order to actually either reach those goals more effectively, or maybe change the goalpost a little bit to bring it closer or further away every 90 days. So again, every quarter, I recommend just evaluating and seeing which goals are we hitting, which ones aren't we hitting, and then how can we course correct. Okay. So this is the pit stop section. So in this training, we're going to kind of take a brief pit stop after each part of the 4-part framework of the website strategy roadmap. And we'll just kind of talk through this. And then I would recommend taking this to your team. You're probably not going to have time in this training to actually like sit down and like answer all these questions. But take this question back to your team to kind of think through the answer to it, because again, it's going to be really critical to be thinking through some of this stuff as it relates to optimizing your website strategy. So this first pit stop, what is your passionate purpose? Again, this is the thing that you are clinging to. This is the thing that is bigger than the actual task that you're doing. And so you need to be thinking through, what is the passionate purpose for our organization? So again, just as I guess an example, as you're maybe thinking through your passionate purpose, if you are a roofing company, well, you're not just repairing a roof or fixing a roof. That's the tangible thing you're doing. But the thing that you're doing that's larger than the task at hand is you are, repairing somebody's roof. You're solving their problem so that they can get back to making memories with their family, or so that their business, let's say you're doing commercial roofing, so that their business can continue to, increase profits so that they can then do more good in the world and solve their customers' problems. So again, whatever the thing is that you're doing, be thinking through like, okay, well, we're not just doing this task. We're not just, a website design company. We're not just a photographer. We're not just a roofing company. We're not just a plumber. But here's like the actual big, deeper reason why we're doing what we're doing. That's your passionate purpose. And again, that's the thing that's going to propel you when things get tough, when things get challenging, either in your business or your nonprofit or your church. So think through, what is your passionate purpose? Okay, let's move on to the second part of the 4-part framework. The second lens that we're always trying to think through in terms of website strategy is messaging. So again, mission was the one we just talked about. What's the passionate purpose? What's the goals for our website? How are we tracking those goals? How are we optimizing them and changing them over time? So that's basically the thing that keeps us forward. It's our map. It's keeping us on track. Now, your messaging, again, this is a series of road signs. This is the thing that's helping people to know how to navigate your website, how to kind of go down the right streets of your website, if you will. And so there's a few different things we're going to cover in this section. One is your ideal client avatar. And so, before you can even think through a clarity statement or think through what kind of copy or what kind of messaging are we going to have on our website, how are we funneling people with copy and messaging and the sentences and paragraphs that we're writing, you want to make sure that you have an ideal client avatar. Now, if you've never heard of this before, you may have heard it referred to as an ideal buyer persona. There's a few different words or a few different ways that people refer to this. But when we say ideal client avatar, what we're saying is you have an audience. And so you have a specific set of people that you need to be thinking about writing copy for. So if you're just trying to like write copy that's general, that could apply to anybody, it's not going to be potent. It's not going to be something that's compelling as much as it would be if it was actually for a specific audience. So you want that audience to read your copy and you want them to think, wow, this organization understands my challenges. They understand my needs. They're talking to me specifically. And so they're going to be more compelled to actually take action with your website. So again, as it relates to your ideal client avatar or your buyer persona, a few different things that you could think about. I would recommend naming the person. Name your ideal client avatar, maybe even like find like a stock photo image of them. You can see here in this little example, there's, a bio. What is this person all about? Who are they? What's their age? What's their marital status, their education? What do they want in life? What are their frustrations? What do they do for work or their hobbies or their habits? And so if you can do this, if you can kind of get inside of the head of the person that you're actually trying to target, because again, you have a different audience. Like, let's say that you are a plumbing business. You're a plumber. You probably have a different audience than a different plumber might, because you might target more high income earners versus somebody else might just be targeting the average, like young family in a certain area. So maybe it's a demographic difference. Maybe it's a geographic difference. If you're a church, then you might be part of one denomination versus a different one, or one location versus a different one. You might have an older congregation or a younger congregation. So again, regardless, you need to be thinking through, who are we actually trying to interact with the copy on our website, and build your ideal either buyer persona or ideal client avatar, as we refer to it. And again, these are just some examples of things you can include. But of course, you're not limited to these items. You can even be thinking even deeper into who this person is and how your copy is going to affect them. So again, building an ideal client avatar is going to help you as you start to build a clarity statement and build the copy and the paragraphs and the messaging on your website. Okay, the next thing here in terms of messaging, again, we're trying to think through, we don't want to confuse people with copy. We don't want to, make them wonder how to take the next step with us. And so the next thing that we always like to, cover here in this part of the workshop is the power of a clarity statement. Now, when we say clarity statement, what I'm not referring to is like a vision statement or a mission statement. So you probably already have that, and that's great. And so we're not asking you to change your vision statement or change your mission statement. Your clarity statement is usually a website specific statement, and it usually happens right above the fold, which means before you start scrolling down the website. And we'll show you an example of what that looks like here in just a second. But again, the clarity statement here, this is the thing that we want to be super clear so that people know who we are, what we do, and why we do it. So let's go ahead and hop back into this here. So these are the three different components that we usually recommend every clarity statement has. Again, it's a website specific statement. You're not rewriting your mission statement. So these are the three elements here. Who are you? What do you do? And how are you making someone's life better? So let's go ahead and look at an example. I love this quote, by the way. If you confuse, you lose. Clarity is king. But okay, this is an example of a roofing company website. Now, this is a fictitious roofing company. It doesn't actually exist. I didn't want to, make fun of or poke fun at like a real website. But High View Roofing. So if you were to look at this, now, of course, we have the logo in the top left corner. And so you could probably tell that it's a roofing company from that. But let's say that wasn't there. If you just landed here, it says in business for 50 years. Well, people want to put something like that. Hey, we've been in business for 75 years, because it's a qualifier. It shows that we've been doing business in the community for a long time. We're reputable. We're trustworthy. The problem is it's not clear. We've been in business for 50 years. Okay, well, there's a house back there. So what are you, a real estate agent, a real estate company? Maybe this is a pressure washing company that can pressure wash your home. And so it's not clear. We don't even know that you're doing roofing, because you're not even saying the word roofing in this above the fold statement. Again, a lot of people aren't going to scroll and scroll and scroll. They're going to land right here on this above the fold section. And so we want to be really clear before anybody scrolls one time or clicks to another page of the website. So here's an example. And again, this actually isn't even the best version of this. We're going to show you another one in a future section of this exact above the fold section. Because there's actually one element that's even missing from this. But this is a lot better in terms of the actual messaging and copy. So again, previously we had in business for 50 years. Well, who are you? Like, why do I care? How do I take the next step? But then this one right here is a lot more clear. So keeping you covered. So a little bit of a playful, slogan or nod to the idea that they're doing roofing, keeping you covered. And then this is the clarity statement. We're a premier roofing company that offers hassle-free roofing services so that you can get back to making memories in the home you love with the family you love. So we know you're a roofing company because it says we are a roofing company. And what do? You're offering hassle-free roofing services so that you can get, and then what are you doing it for? What's the why? How are you making somebody's life better? Because we're helping you make more memories with your family in the home that you love. So again, we're answering those three questions there of who are you? what do you do, and how are you making somebody's life better? Really, every website needs to have a clarity statement like this. Again, not rewriting a mission statement or vision statement, but we're thinking about how we're being really clear. We don't want people to be confused on our websites. Okay, the next part of the messaging part of this framework is the crucial content framework. And so this is essentially a list of the top items that I recommend every website have. Now, this could be a little bit different, and there might be some elements that you would add or something here that might not apply to you, depending on if you're a certain kind of church or if you're a certain kind of nonprofit or a certain kind of business, you might have something different. For instance, I don't know, a church may not have testimonials. Maybe they will, but maybe they decide, okay, testimonials isn't, that important for our website. Let's put something else there. But in general, regardless of your industry, whether you're a service-based business, a product-based business, a church, a nonprofit, I usually recommend these items being instituted on your website. So we'll kind of touch them briefly here. So the header, that is essentially the very top. So like the top bar of your website. So if we go back to this example here, this would be like the header. There's a logo, there's, navigation links for people to easily access what they're looking for. There's a button that, has a compelling call to action. And we'll get into calls to actions in a little bit. And so again, there's a really good, header with those elements that you need there. The above the fold section, this is what we were just looking at. This is the above the fold section. Before you scroll one time, you want to make sure you're having a really good above the fold section there. The next thing is identifying the problem. So I usually recommend a section right underneath the above the fold section that identifies pain points. You're identifying the problem because then underneath that, you're going to be positioning yourself as the solution to that problem. So like if you're a mattress company, maybe the pain point section or the problem section says, are you tired of your partner waking you up at night? Is your mattress uncomfortable? It's keeping you awake. Are you tired of getting hot during the night? So whatever those pain points are, and then underneath it, you're offering a solution. Hey, we can tailor, we can give you tailored recommendations for a mattress for your specific body type and your specific age or weight or whatever. And so again, we're identifying problem, and then you're positioning yourself as the solution to that problem. The next item here in the crucial content framework that we recommend every website has is a clear process. People need to be led. They need to be guided. And so even on your website, we want to make sure that we're making it very clear how to take the next step. What are the 3 easy steps to working with you? And so people need to be able to see that so that they can then take the next step. So again, it's just making it super clear as far as what the journey looks like to actually partner on a deeper level with your organization. The next item that we recommend is testimonials. This is a great qualifier. If you go to a website and there's it showcases just tons and tons of great reviews or video reviews or Google reviews that are embedded of real customers that are saying, hey, this product really works, or hey, this service really changed my business, or, helped my life, then that's going to be a great qualifier for people. The next item that I recommend in the next section is a lead generator. And so the lead generator, we'll get into some examples of that in the next section here in the marketing section. But again, this is usually a free PDF resource or some sort of discount code or coupon code, but it's a way to capture leads. It's a way to capture email addresses. You're offering some sort of free PDF or free value in exchange for that person's email address that you can then kind of pop into an automated follow-up funnel or something like that. So again, we'll get into more of that later. And then the footer. Some people refer to the footer, which is the very bottom section of the website, as the junk drawer of the website. It's not important. It's at the very bottom. Nobody's going to see it. But actually, it's on every page. Homepage, About Us page, Services page, FAQ page. You're going to scroll down and see the footer. So we want to make sure we're optimizing it well with, some sort of call to action button, your logo, a clarity statement, quick links that people might want access to, your hyperlinking, contact info like phone number, email address, location, etc. So again, this is the crucial content framework. These are the items that we usually recommend every website have on the homepage of their website. Okay, so I mentioned calls to action earlier. So a call to action, again, would be something like this, get a quote button up here at the top. Now, on your website, it might say contact us or get a free quote or purchase now if you're an e-commerce store. If you're a church, it might say I'm new or plan a visit. But we want to make sure that our calls to action fit in terms of quantity, that you have good quantity of them, and then also quality. So really I recommend every section of your homepage having some sort of call to action. Really, I like to view your homepage as a lead-in, it's essentially a landing page that has lead-ins to other pages. So as you're scrolling down, if you are a church, maybe there's a little bit about us and then a button that says learn more about us. That is a lead-in to the About Us page. Or you're scrolling down a little further and then there's a ministry section, maybe a little blurb about your ministries in general, and then a button that says view all ministries. And that's a lead-in to your ministries page. So even for a business or a nonprofit, I usually recommend every section sort of having some sort of call to action that's funneling somebody into the next step of your website. So again, you want to have quantity. You also want to have quality. So there's a couple different things here with quality. One is you want to have the right types of calls to actions in the right places. So again, for instance, for this example, we have get a quote in the top right corner. That's the number one spot I always recommend on a website for calls to action because it's where the eye gravitates toward. It's the natural place where your eye goes. So you want an obviously clickable, obvious button to push up there. For instance, like if you're wanting to purchase some new hats, you're going to look for a cart in the top right corner or a shop button. If you're wanting to make a donation to a nonprofit, you're usually going to see that donate button or that get involved or get plugged in button in the top right corner. So again, top right corner, that's the first spot I recommend. And then underneath your clarity statement here, having another intentional button. That's another great place to put it. I can't tell you how many, we offer these free website strategy sessions for businesses and churches and nonprofits. And I'm on these calls constantly, like every single day. And I've seen so many websites where there's just not a button. There might be the navigation tabs at the top, but there's no button here. There's no button here. You're scrolling down. There's not one single button. Well, what are people going to click? If they actually want to do it, like where are they going to go? So we want to make sure we're being intentional with good quality. And then in terms of quality, I also you want it to be a compelling call to action. So, for instance, on this example, we have get a quote. That's compelling because, something like get a free quote, or like fix my roof now, or, something like that. A lot of people have just put contact us, which you can do that, but it's a little bit weaker. It's not the highest quality button or call to action that you could put on your website. So again, be thinking through what's a good quality call to action for our website. Okay, so this is the pit stop section for the messaging part of this workshop. Again, you're probably not going to have time, during this training to like sit down and like come up with all of this stuff because it's going to take a little bit of intentional brainstorming. But take this back to your team. This question here. So this is our pit stop for messaging. Build your organization's website specific clarity statement. Again, not rewriting mission statement or vision statement. This is going above the fold on the website, your clarity statement. Who are you? What do you do? How are you making somebody's life better? Again, this is the compelling clarity right there above the fold that's actually going to make somebody want to go deeper and take the next step with your organization. All right, let's move into marketing. Again, the marketing part of this framework. So we're pivoting here. We've talked about mission. That's the map. That's the thing that's pointing you in the right direction. You know what your website's all about, why it exists in the first place. You have your messaging, which is making it very clear who you are, what you do, how people can partner with you. You're using calls to actions in the right places to point people in the right ways. They can clearly funnel through your website in an appropriate way. Now with marketing, this is the billboard. This is the thing that's going to elicit action from somebody. And so again, we want to be thinking through what can we do to actually make somebody actually click the button and actually take the next step and actually download the resource. And so the marketing component here is critical for your website strategy. So let's go ahead and talk branding 101 first. We're going to get into a few different things. Now this part of the workshop is going to be a little bit more practical and tangible. So especially as you see in kind of the future slides here, we're going to get a little bit more practical with things that we recommend changing and adjusting and adding to your website. But first, let's talk branding because the fact is your look and feel and your colors and your fonts and everything else communicates something. And so really, the colors in your logo and the typography, is it a serif typeface or a sans serif typeface? What colors are you using? Really, even with color theory, so much of that can kind of make you feel different things. So there's a reason that so many restaurants like Burger King and McDonald's and Hardee's, they're using yellows and reds in their logo. And so we could do a whole workshop on color theory and what certain colors kind of elicit in terms of emotions. And same thing with typography. Certain fonts are going to elicit certain, emotive responses from us as well. And so we want to make sure that we're communicating the right thing about our organization. So for instance, if you were a law firm, you wouldn't want to have a logo that looks like it belongs to a daycare because nobody's going to trust you. And if you're a daycare, you don't want a logo that looks like it belongs to a law firm because that's not fun. No kid's going to want to go to that daycare. And so again, we want to make sure we're being really intentional with look and feel and colors and fonts. Yes, with our branding, because your logo kind of spills over into everything else. But also that we're being intentional with look and feel and branding as it relates to our website and website strategy. So again, all right, we just kind of covered logo a little bit. Colors, again, that can play a critical role and how people kind of perceive your brand. Fonts, same thing. Now, photos, this is a really important one to note. So earlier we looked at this screenshot here of this fictitious roofing company. And I mentioned this actually isn't even the most ideal version of this above the fold section because there's something missing. Well, there's a picture of a nice roof. And so this is such a common thing. So many businesses want to put a picture of their building or put a picture of their service. So like if you're a plumber, you want to have a picture of pipes or tools, plumbing tools. Or if you're a church, you want to have a picture of your empty sanctuary or your church, like an aerial view of your church building. People don't connect with pictures of houses or buildings or tools. They connect with pictures of people. So for this high view roofing, instead of this photo in the background, I would recommend a photo like this. So there's still a house and a roof back there, but more importantly, there is a happy young family that just purchased a home or that just got their roof repaired or fixed at the home. You can see the dad is smiling, the mom is smiling because they just used high view roofing to fix or repair or give them a new roof for their home. And that is the thing that's going to elicit an emotional response. And it really does two things. One is it elicits an emotional response, which basically means they see themselves in the photo. Oh, they're happy because they just use high view roofing. If I use them, I'll be happy too. That's one. Number two is it usually takes away the fear of the unknown. So like if, for instance, in the church world, if you have a picture of, happy smiling people worshiping or like shaking hands on Sunday morning, then it's going to take away a fear of the unknown. Oh, that's what people dress like that's what people dress like on Sunday morning. Oh, that's what the sanctuary looks like. When I show up, I know what to expect. Oh, that's what the pastor looks like. So again, it does those two things. It takes away fear of the unknown. So it makes the conversion process or the buying process or the donating process or the visiting process easier for your website visitor. But number two, it elicits that emotional response. They can see themselves in the photo. If it's a headphone company and there's a happy girl wearing headphones and she's exercising, she's fit. Oh, if I get those headphones, I'll be able to be happy and fit too, utilizing those headphones. So again, photos play a really big role in building an intentional website strategy. The next is design assets. You can see some examples here for us at Ritchie Creative. We have sort of this plus sign in a few different places. But again, your design assets that can kind of help you to build an iconic and reputable presence as a brand. And then the importance of a style guide. If you don't know what this is, it also is sometimes referred to as like a brand guidelines document or a visual identity system. But what we're saying here is we want to make sure that we have some sort of document that tells us, hey, here's our specific color codes, hex codes, RGB codes, CMYK codes. Here's our logo usage. And here's do's and don'ts. Don't stretch it. Don't warp it. Don't put a weird drop shadow behind it. But basically, and then here's the fonts we use. Don't use these other fonts. Only use these 3 different fonts or whatever. So we want to make sure that we're having some sort of style guide because that's going to help our website to make sure it fits. It matches with our flyers and it matches with our logo, and all of your different visual identity system materials can be cohesive. And that's the best way to keep your brand from being diluted. You don't want to have a diluted brand where like the logo on your truck looks one way and then your business card looks different and then your website looks different. So we want to make sure everything is cohesive. A style guide is a great way to do that. Okay, let's move into the next part of the marketing part of the website strategy roadmap, which is SEO. So again, we could do an hour-long webinar or training on SEO specifically. And so we don't have time for that today, but these are like my top recommendations in terms of website strategy for your SEO. So again, your SEO up here is your search engine optimization. This is if you're on Google, let's say that you are a plumber in Lakeland, Florida. And if you're on Google and you're typing in, I need a plumber in Lakeland or plumber near me, and you're in Lakeland, then how likely are you to pop up on Google or different search engines? And so that's your search engine optimization, your SEO. And so some things that we usually recommend from a website's perspective to kind of improve your SEO to make sure that you're actually being found more easily by people that are looking for you is your site speed is one. So on your website, as you're building your website, if you have tons of heavy embedded videos or tons of, really like your photos are all very big image sizes. For instance, you don't need more than a megabyte. You don't need more than a meg for a photo. But like so many websites have photos on there that are like 3 megabytes or 4 megabytes, and it really slows down your site speed. So have you ever been to a website and you're trying to get like a certain page to load and it's like taking forever, or like the photos are like loading really slowly? You get frustrated, you get distracted, you get bored, and then you just go to the next person. So we want to make sure your site speed is fast. So that's one way to do that. Backlinks is my next tip here. So external backlinks and internal backlinks. A backlink is essentially, if you've never heard the term, it's essentially any link that's pointing to your website. So if you are listed on a Chamber of Commerce directory and there's a link to your website, pointing to your URL, that's a backlink. So, social media accounts that have links to your website would be backlinks. If somebody, features you in a blog post, the top 10 plumbers in Lakeland, or the top 20 roofing companies in Central Florida, then that would be an example of a backlink. Any like listing or link that goes to your website. So if you have more of those, like if you, let's say your competition has 10 backlinks up to their website, but you can get up to 60 and 70, Google's going to say, oh, well, they have 60 or 70 links pointing to their website. They must be the one that people are looking for. And so that is that tip there. Google reviews is the next kind of organic SEO tip that I would have for your website. Very similar to the backlinks strategy. If you have 10 Google reviews and your competition has 60, Google's gonna think, oh, okay, well, this other one has 60. This must be what people are looking for. And vice versa. So you want to make sure that you have more Google reviews if you can than your competition, because that's going to help with your organic SEO. Google's always trying to get people what they're looking for as efficiently and quickly as possible. The next is blog posts. So this is a really great way to make sure that you're putting good keywords on your website, location-specific keywords, service-specific keywords. And so, if you have blog posts and eventually you build up to 20 blog posts, 60 blog posts, 100 blog posts, then it's just going to be a great way to organically put more keywords into your website. And then my last two notes there, meta tags and meta descriptions. This is a little bit more technical and it might sound a little more complicated, but essentially, like if you've ever actually, I think I might have an example here. So this would be like an example of a meta description. So like this is for our website here. You can see this like little sentence here, or for each of these different ones, we have this little sentence. So you can have like specific, like for each page, you could have a specific site description or page description or meta description. And then your meta tags, you're essentially putting keywords that are relevant to that specific page on your specific website. So again, we're thinking through service specific keywords. We're thinking through location specific keywords as well. Okay, so that's essentially SEO. Now, this next part here of the marketing section of the website strategy roadmap, I think is pretty critical, because really any industry could benefit from getting email addresses from your audience on your website. So this is all about capturing and nurturing your leads online. Again, we recommend having a lead generator. So for our website, we have this little screen grab here. Currently, at the time of this training, we're offering this free PDF resource called the Blueprint for the Perfect Website. Basically kind of lays out, the top 9 components you want to make sure every homepage has. And so people want that resource. And so they put in their email address and they get the resource. We're just offering free value. But then they are able to, they benefit because they now have access to this free PDF resource. But then we have that email address where we can either manually or in an automated email marketing campaign, follow up with them, see how we can help them, what's going on in the life of their church or business or nonprofit, and sort of build a connection with them at that point. And so that's a really great tool. So I'd recommend having some sort of lead generator. And then nurturing that lead, again, whether you're sending a direct email manually or you're putting them into some sort of automated marketing funnel. And then again, you can see here we have email marketing and follow-up funnels. Again, like let's say that you were giving somebody a free quote with a quote calculator for your custom home building business. And then they say, oh, I want a free quote. I'll use that calculator. So they use the calculator, but they have to put in their email address first. And then you're giving them a free quote. So you're actually adding value to them. But then if you put them into an automated email campaign in MailChimp or MailerLite or something like that, then once a week, maybe they get an email from you, or once every few days, or once every 2 weeks, whatever the frequency makes sense for your industry. Just saying like, hey, thanks for using our calculator. We'd love to help you build your home. Do you have any questions for us? And after you, send those emails 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 6 times, eventually they might say, hey, yeah, I think that we are ready to have a conversation. Can we book a call with you? Or, hey, yeah, I think we're ready for you to build our home for us. And so that's a really great tool too, just those automated email marketing funnels. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a pit stop together. This is the pit stop for the marketing section of the website strategy roadmap. What lead generator could you be deploying on your website in order to add value for free for somebody in exchange for an email address? And so, again, some different examples that I've seen in the past. It could be some sort of like free PDF, like we're currently using at Ritchie Creative, or maybe it's something like a discount code. So maybe if you are a product-based business, or maybe you're like offering a summer camp that campers have to register, parents have to register for camp. Maybe, hey, put in your email address for 10% off registration or for 10% off your first order, or something like that. And so it could be something like that. We've also seen people before do like community coupons. So, hey, put in your email address and download this coupon book of local businesses, to save 5 or 10% off your purchases at these different businesses that are local. So again, be thinking through, and again, like, you might not have time in this exact training to be thinking through what is the ideal lead generator for your specific church or business or nonprofit. But take this back to your team, be thinking through what's a good lead generator that we could be deploying on our website in order to get email addresses from our audience, and then to be able to add free value to them in exchange. Okay. So far we've talked through your mission. That's your map. The thing that's keeping you pointed in the right direction is keeping you on track because you know what goals you're setting. We talked through messaging, which is, funneling people the right way through your website, making sure it's clear how to interact with your organization and with your brand. Marketing to actually elicit action and collect email addresses and to make people actually want to work with you and take the next step. And then meaningful experiences is the final one, but this is by no means is this the least important one. It might be the last one in our framework. But if you go to a website and something's broken or something's not working, you're going to get frustrated. And then you're going to wonder why you took the journey in the first place. And so that's what we mean by meaningful experiences. We want to make sure that the experience that our audiences are having is a positive experience and not a negative one. And again, what's at stake if there's friction? Well, people are going to get distracted. They're going to get bored. They're going to check out. They're going to go somewhere else. They're going to find your competition and use them instead. And so we want to make sure that there's no friction. There's no issues on our website. Okay, so really where this manifests itself often is in responsive design. So the fact is 75% of people are coming to a website from a smartphone or tablet. They're actually not coming from your computer. And so we want to make sure that from a mobile environment and a tablet environment, the website is functional. It looks great. Text isn't too small. And so there's a few different ways that we recommend checking to make sure that it is optimized for mobile and tablet view and desktop view. So one way that you can do that is you can just check the layout on all of your different breakpoints on a device. So you can actually pull out your phone and pull out your tablet and pull out your desktop to actually make sure everything looks good and is working in a functional way. Or you could test it in your website builder. If you're using, some sort of page builder in a WordPress or Squarespace or Wix or something like that, then oftentimes you can actually just they have little toggle buttons where you can actually click view mobile mode, view tablet mode, view desktop mode. And then you can kind of see it, make sure everything looks good and looks right. Or you can use the inspector tool in Chrome. So if you've never done that before, usually if you're on a website in Chrome and you right click on the website, you right click and then you click inspect, then it'll kind of usually show you a mobile breakpoint. Then you can kind of pull that little tab and open it to see a tablet breakpoint and then move it back to see mobile. So that's, another way to do that. But again, you want to make sure you're actually testing it on all devices so that there's not anything that's photos overlapping on text or text being too small or anything like that. So again, these are the things we usually recommend checking for in terms of a responsive web design. One is your text size. It's very, very common for text to be too big or too small or wonky or something like that, or it's right justify when it should be left justified in mobile. The next thing is image cropping. So let's say that you have a picture of happy, smiling people like we recommend in a certain section of your website, but in mobile, it's cropping it off on somebody's shoulder, or it's just showing a computer or something instead of the person's face. And so if that's happening, you want to make sure you're changing that so that in mobile view, you're actually seeing the person's face. Hyperlinking contact info. This is something that we see all the time as we're doing our free website strategy sessions with different people that book calls with us, is in the footer. You want to make sure that the address, if you're a church, you want to make sure the address is hyperlinked so that somebody can just click it and it opens Apple Maps instantly instead of having to manually type in the address on your phone. If you're a business, you want to make sure your phone number is hyperlinked and your email address is hyperlinked so that people aren't manually having to punch in your phone number, but they can just click it and then it's calling you. And so again, we're reducing friction. We're trying to make it as easy as possible for people to do what they're wanting to do on your website with as little steps as possible. And then again, just checking for broken buttons or broken links. We want to make sure that, there's not anything to where somebody's going to try to click something and it's not working or it's not doing what it's supposed to do. So I know this sounds like a lot of work. I recommend just clicking every button on your entire website, making sure that from a user experience, there's nothing that's wonky or broken or not loading or anything like that. Okay, so this is a formula that we recommend deploying. So we refer to it as the VIS formula, but essentially what this stands for is visualize, identify, solve, and then that equals reduce friction. And so to kind of explain it a little bit further, we know too much. So as an agency owner, I know too much about my agency, so I have to put things in more simple terms for people that maybe don't know as much about hosting fees and different website things like your SSL certificate and all that stuff. You know too much as a church. And so many churches that, they're using language up their tabs at the top say reach in, reach up, reach out. Well, an unchurched person doesn't know what that means. They don't get it. If you're a nonprofit, you want to make sure that you're being really clear because they might not know about the type of nonprofit work you're doing or how to partner, or how to get involved. And so we know too much about our brands. And so we have to really simplify things. And so put yourself in the shoes of the person who just doesn't know about your agency, who doesn't know about your business, your church, your nonprofit. So visualize. So again, Viz formula, visualize, identify, solve. Visualize yourself in the shoes of the person who's never seen your website before. Then identify what's confusing here. Where's the friction? What don't I know how to do intuitively on the website? And then solve the friction, fix it, make the text clearer, make the messaging more simple, more clear, put the buttons in a different place, whatever it may be. Make sure that we're solving the friction that we're identifying as we're engaging with the Viz formula. Okay. These are loose ends. These are things that usually end up missing on a website or you're not even thinking about. And maybe these are things, some of these things you're like, oh, I didn't even know I needed to do that. And so these are very common things that are sort of the loose ends that often don't get tied up as somebody is optimizing a website or designing a website. One is your error page. And so there's something called the 404 error page. So like, let's say that you have, the URL soandsoplumbing.com and somebody tries to go to like soandsoplumbing.com/help. And that page doesn't exist. There's not a help page. Then it's going to show a 404 error page. And usually the default, depending on your builder, is going to be ugly or just not on brand. And so you can customize your 404 error page so that if somebody goes to a page that doesn't exist, it looks custom. So you can see an example here for us. This is like our Ritchie Creative like 404 error page. There's a happy smiling person, a button to, go to the homepage, if they end up on this page for some reason. So again, your 404 error page is one thing you can do. The next is a site description. We already talked about that previously, but your site description is essentially, again, like we talked about in the SEO section, the sentence that shows up if somebody's in Google and they're searching something. Sometimes what happens is like Google just takes the first sentence that's like on your homepage and like treats that like the site description by default. And it might not even be the right sentence for your brand. For instance, we've seen churches before that like their site description in Google talks about their kids ministry instead of their church. And so it needs to be like a sentence that's specific for your church if you're a church. The next thing here is your fav icon. And so you can see an example of that right here. So this is essentially like in your tab in Google Chrome or Safari or whatever your web browser is, you have some sort of icon there that's called your fav icon. Squarespace by default has like an ugly like square block. WordPress by default has an ugly like globe or world. This is something we see all the time, even on like big companies or, big businesses. They just aren't thinking about these loose ends. And so there's just not a custom fav icon, but you want to make sure this is, it does help you to feel more buttoned up, more polished if you have your branding up there, in your tab on your, in your web browser. The next item here is form field error text or validation text. So if you're on a website and you're like filling out a form and you click submit, there's probably some sort of like statement that says like form submitted successfully. Or if you're trying to submit something, but you put something in wrong, it says form cannot be submitted. So sometimes, usually it's like a pretty general default, like form has been submitted successfully, but sometimes not. And depending if you're using like some sort of template or theme, maybe it has some kind of wonky, weird custom message. So you can do a custom message in most CMS or most web builders for your validation text or your error text, and make it feel like it belongs to your brand, to your website. So again, that's one thing that you can kind of customize. The next is a sharing graphic. So this would be like an example of a sharing graphic. So if somebody was wanting to share ritchie-creative.com, then you can see like this is like a screen grab from our homepage, but you can put like a picture of a happy smiling person there. By default, often it like just tries to show your logo PNG. So if your logo's in white, you're not gonna be able to see it because it's like a white background and it's a white logo. So if you've ever tried to like iMessage somebody or text somebody or like post on Facebook the link to your website and it's that sharing image like looks weird or something, you can put a custom image there. And we usually again recommend a happy smiling person or like a screen grab of your homepage or something like that. And then the last thing here for loose ends, spam protection or Google reCAPTCHA. So like if you, usually this happens more so with like WordPress because it's an open source platform instead of Squarespace. But if you like for your website, if you ever get these like spammy like responses, like spammy form submissions that are like from people in different countries or something like that, it's kind of annoying and frustrating. You can either use Google reCAPTCHA, which is probably one of the best known spam protection like for forms that you can implement on a website. So that's a great one I recommend. Another one that is it's a premium. It costs a little bit of money per month or annually depending on your plan, but it's called CleanTalk. And CleanTalk is a WordPress plugin. and it's great for these kind of spammy form submissions to kind of reduce the amount of those that you're getting. But again, that's something that a lot of people aren't thinking about. You can also, depending on your builder, if you're using something like Elementor in WordPress, or if you use some other builder like that, Beaver Builder or Divi, sometimes you can use something called a honeypot, which is also another, and you'll have to, look that up later, but essentially you can add another form field, which is like a honeypot, which is like a trap for bots that are trying to just, fill out a bunch of random form submissions. It kind of keeps those from coming through. So anyways, that is one thing that you could look into, is just how to reduce the amount of spam that you might be getting in terms of spam submissions on your website. Okay. So the final pit stop here for the meaningful experiences part of the website strategy roadmap is this. Can you identify any current forms of friction on your website, and can you solve it? So again, during this training, you probably don't have time to do this right now, but bring this question back to your team. Use the Viz formula. Think through, hey, if I visualize myself as somebody who's never been on this site before, can I identify any forms of friction and solve that friction? Because we don't want people to get distracted. We don't want them to be confused or scratch their heads or anything like that. If a button's not working or if it's not responsive. And so we want to make sure that they're enjoying the journey instead of wondering why they actually took the journey in the first place. So again, just an overview here. We talked about mission. This is your map. It's pointing you in the right direction, keeping you focused, why your website exists in the first place. We talked through messaging for your website strategy, series of road signs. It's clear which streets people can navigate down your website, and they know exactly how to take the next step. Marketing is the billboard. It's the thing that's actually eliciting action from somebody, making them want to actually buy or donate or sell, or whatever the main thing is that you're trying to get them to do on your website. And then meaningful experiences, an enjoyable journey. We're making sure that the journey is enjoyable and it's not a poor journey, but it's an enjoyable one. We're reducing friction. We're tying up loose ends at every cost. Two final things here as we're kind of wrapping up this initial training here. We have these two resources here, and it's very optional. But if you are building a website from scratch, or you just don't know where to start with revamping your website or optimizing it, we offer these free website audits. So I mentioned earlier these free website strategy sessions that we offer for churches and nonprofits and businesses. This is essentially what this is. So you can scan this QR code to sign up for a time slot. It's not a sales call. We don't bring up, sales at all unless you ask us to. Again, we do website design and logo design and print design and all of that. And so we don't bring up that part of it unless you tell us to. This is just to give you a really good punch list of some practical feedback that we would recommend on your specific website. You leave this 20 or 30-minute Zoom call, again, with just a really good punch list of things that we would recommend changing or updating to get the most out of your website. Or we have another resource that you can download. Again, I mentioned this earlier. This is the blueprint for the perfect website. You can scan this QR code to get that. But again, this is a checklist of the top items that we recommend including on your website's homepage to get the most out of your website and to, again, kind of improve or just to kind of make your website homepage a better tool for actually getting more sales, getting more donations, getting more downloads, links, clicks, whatever it may be on your website. So that's pretty much it. Thanks so much for joining us for this training. Hopefully this was beneficial for you and your church and your business, your nonprofit. And hopefully this will give you some really practical tools and resources and strategies to employ and deploy on your website to kind of get a higher return on investment for your website as you're building an intentional website strategy for your organization. That's all we have for today. Remember, you can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. Stay creative, and we'll catch you next time.